check in.
Go, Riccardo, go.
About this evening and tomorrow. So at 5 o'clock, we'll end by around 4 now. At 5, dinner's at Chow, right?
Chow Center.
Dinner's at Chow, so be there at 5. We'll have kind of a reception. And I don't know what's at reception. We just talk to each other, or there's like drinks. I bet there's no drinks, but some stuff, like something to drink. I guess not. 5. We meet at 5.
5 at the Chow Center.
5 at Chow, and then
5:30 you kick you off with the dinner.
yeah, 5:30 we sit down for dinner. So yeah, at least by 5. And we'll shoot to get done by 6:45, 7. So food starts at 5:30. We mingle, if you want to mingle, for 20 minutes before that.
But we're breaking at about 4 today, so we've got about an hour. And the dinner starts at 5, where we all arrive.
Yeah, the question was, is the food served at 5 or at 5:30?
If you want to start, food will be ready, I believe. If you want to start eating early, of course.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so that's this evening. That's this evening. Tomorrow, the first thing in the morning, we have Salesforce. We've been talking about this, in different organizations. Salesforce, basically the entire company has 800 agile teams, and the whole entire organization runs that way. Paul Chung was MBA class of 2010. Paul is the director of product management at Salesforce, so he's coming down as well as their. I think I like to call her she's like the lead Scrum Master, basically kind of the head of the entire agile process at Salesforce. So they'll pick up in an hour or half, 2 in the morning, and then the rest of the day we have BCGs like full force. Like they have 8 partners and a bunch of their team and clients here, and sort of walking through with their partners and some clients, many different industries. We've seen a lot of tech, but literally the idea with them was let's not talk about any tech. It's every industry other than tech is BCG's mandate. So we follow that up on Friday morning with BCG's head of BCG Ventures. And BCG Ventures is basically how do we do venturing inside big companies. That's their business model, but that's for Friday. We can talk about that tomorrow. So that's the plan for tomorrow, and that's the plan for dinner, and we'll take it away with Riccardo.
Fantastic. You know, what's interesting, building on Suraj's point, is we spoke about how Scrum, which is one methodology, today possibly the most dominant methodology of doing Agile in organizations, we went through the process at what we call the business unit level. The big thing for us with Salesforce is going to be how do we scale that. But we're going to come back down to our theme of Agile, grew up in the tech industry. And this evening we'll talk about the Agile Manifesto with Dr. Sutherland and how it grew out of the tech industry. But today is all about other industries. And we're really delighted to have Riccardo Mariti here. Riccardo has launched what we call the first all Scrum restaurant. And we're going to bring it back to basics, a very human element as to how this works on the ground. Last year at the Agile conference, there's an annual big Agile conference with the Scrum Alliance. Riccardo, you did a session with Jeff Sutherland on this process. So we're really delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Over to you. Take us through your journey.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here today, and thank you so much for inviting me, especially to this wonderful location. When I first started talking to the professors, they said one of the first questions you're going to ask is, why a restaurant guy from London here? How does that relate to what you're doing? And the professors explained to me that there were certain universal principles that cut right across industries and sectors that apply to almost all of us. And we had many conversations on the telephone, and I've been racking my brains to think about what's the most important thing that maybe we all have in common. And I think unless you're going to be a sole trader, like originally my my first part of life, I was in the real estate business, and it was just me and one other guy in an office, and we were just trading. And so this doesn't really apply, but if you're not in that type of business, then everything we do is around people. And everything revolves around the teams we put together. What we want to accomplish, we accomplish through people, with people. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey through that. I've been around the business, restaurant business for 25 years in this current iteration. I was born about 100 yards from my dad's restaurant, so I grew up around the business. And I think that things have changed so dramatically. I'd just like to tell you a little bit about that. So when I think about, I don't know if you're aware of the term escape velocity, the energy that takes to propel a rocket out of the Earth's atmosphere. It's an enormous amount of energy. And when I started up my restaurant, it felt like that. You had to put an incredible amount of energy. It was like you were sending a rocket ship to the moon. And you know, not just for me, but for the whole team. We were working as a cohesive whole. We were agile we had to be agile every single day because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what the customers wanted. We started a fresh restaurant. We were innovating every single day. Trying new things, giving them to customers. As we started journeying through that, we found out that customers liked specific things. So we start to build this structure. And so on the one hand, we're innovating. On the other hand, we've got customers, they like this done in this specific way. So we start creating, and I never had any formal management training, so just putting this together as we went along, standard operating procedures, recipes. Now in the early days, when we first started, I was cooking a bit at the time, so we'd cook something, we'd send it upstairs, run up afterwards and watch the customers eat it. And really, and it may be on a busy night, 2 or 3 of us staring across at the beginning of the evening to see what sort of reaction people would have to the food we were sending out. And you knew if somebody just took a fork and actually offered it to somebody and said, oh, there, you knew you were on a winner. And so you'd say, okay, that's a good one. And we were just piecing it together. Every single team member talking to each other. Everybody knew what everybody else was doing. And we knew our whole, we got no salary unless we sold food and wine. And so everybody was totally aligned to doing that. But we didn't have managers. There were no roles. And then, of course, we go into this sort of thing. We have a restaurant that's maturing now. And as we get to about year 2, we realized that, for example, I had 2 chefs, one called Gianni and one called Antonio. And one would work on a Saturday and one would work on a Sunday. And because we're in a local neighborhood, people would come with their kids on Saturday and Sunday because there weren't many restaurants in those days. And customers would say to me, I know Gianni's in the kitchen today, because his cooking was slightly different. And although it was a compliment to him because they might ask for it done his way, we realized that we had to standardize. So we start to make things a little stricter. So we start to bring in a virtual police force. And this is the way we've got to do it. These are the recipes we've got. This is our standard operating procedures. And it started getting very solid. So what do you think happens at that point to this bit? I mean, any idea? Yeah, they stop. They stop straight away because they can't. We say no. We actually built the system in the early days without realizing what was going to happen. We built it not wanting it to change. We wanted stability. But looking back now, I realize that was, even though we put all that energy in at the beginning, that's what kept it going. But actually it was starting to die at that point. Because we weren't innovating, we weren't trying anything new. But we were really ahead of our game. We were one of the first restaurants, it sounds silly now, but to have no tablecloths, and we had very formal service in an informal environment. And people really like that, and we had a queue down the road. I just worked out with my wife today, because we celebrate 25 years in May, we will have served 10 million customers by May, because we average about 1,100 customers a day. So, a week, sorry. So, I wish, yeah. But, so now you've got this solid structure, and we've got our police force, and what starts to happen is we start missing opportunities, because people were saying, would you like to come and open a restaurant with us? One guy in Beirut, he had a hotel there, and he said, here, you can just have it. And it would have been a great time. That would have been 1996, 97. We couldn't. I said to the team, can we do that? They were like, no, we can't. We're already so busy. We're already overwhelmed with the work we've got. There was zero agility by the time we got to that point. Number one. Number two, I realized that, especially looking back, people weren't having as much fun anymore. And we started to manipulate people, or the management structure started manipulating people. And I don't think there's anything wrong with manipulation as long as it's done in the right way. We all want to change things, but it was done in the wrong way. And it wasn't a fun place to work anymore, even though the customers liked it, the team didn't enjoy it so much. So in the end, I found Scrum, which was the best day of my life. As far as, actually meeting my wife was the best day of my life. From a business perspective, it was amazing. And it allowed us to completely deconstruct this solid structure that we had, and start building communication across the whole organization again, and build in a sustainable way innovation, and that's what we're doing today. And I'd like to kind of go through a little bit more of that, but before I do, I'll just give you a picture of what the restaurant industry is really like. It is probably the most abusive industry I've ever known. I don't know if anybody here has ever worked in a restaurant or a bar, but it really is unbelievable. And I've seen really decent people repeatedly over the years promoted to management positions, become megalomaniacs, little dictators, literally overnight. And I used to think that these people had some sort of evil part to their character, and that they were searching out management positions in order to go and make everybody's life hell who worked for them. But I realized actually I was completely wrong there, and I think it's the expectation that they have when they become managers of what they need to be doing. They feel they need to rule with an iron fist. They feel that they need to make all the decisions. They have to be the sort of supreme architect of what's going on, and stop anybody making decisions below them. And strangely, I don't know about in my industry, when you make somebody a manager, they immediately go and hang out in the back office, and they stop doing all the things that you promoted them because they were really good at something. Like a chef would be a really good chef. A front of house guy would be a really good customer service manager. And you hope when you promote them to that level that they're going to go out and spread all that love and all show people what they do. Instead, they hide in the back office, and they've always got a clipboard in their hand, and they're not doing the stuff that they used to do so well. And I think it's more the structure, it's what they expect of them when they get that label as manager. And I think more important than that is what happens underneath them. And it's what my wife always says, it's like they become institutionalized, the team members. They're almost like, they're not allowed to make decisions. They're not allowed to make mistakes. They're not allowed to do anything except do what they're told to do. Yeah, and that's basically the message that management in my industry gives. I don't know about other industries because I haven't worked in any other big companies, but when I talk to other people, they say their companies are quite similar. And what happens then, it's a bit like somebody who's been in jail for 20 years, and they come out and they can't function in the real world anymore. And when you take somebody who's been in that environment, I mean, I remember my dad and all his colleagues and all his friends, they were really abusive to their teams. And people were so scared. And people who'd worked it for them for 10, 15 years, they would come out of there, be promoted to an assistant manager or a manager position, and they were unable to function. They said, please, demote me, please. I don't want to wear a jacket. I can't make decisions anymore. Because I think, every day, people become what they're allowed to do. And that old style management just doesn't work. I think another reason why this whole thing is broken is that the new generation is, Generation X and Generation Z, we call Gen Z, a vast proportion of those have entrepreneurial aspirations. They call themselves entrepreneurs. They want to make decisions. They want to do things and feel that they're growing. There's this whole culture of people feeling that they need to better themselves, which is fantastic. And if they work under that type of manager for a couple of days, they're gone. The good ones are gone. That's a scary thing. Because when you build a team and all the good guys go, what are you left with? Yeah, you're not the people you want on your team, but they're the only ones who work under that. I had always dreamt of a different way. I remember back in the year 2000, I read an article it was actually the biography of Mahatma Gandhi, and his wife, Kasturba, said in that, I'm so honored that my husband never exploited another human being for his own good. And I said, God, isn't that a worthy idea? Wouldn't that be so nice? We just don't exploit anyone. We have people who are actually really happy to come to work and work in that type of environment. When I shared that with my managers and other restaurant owners, they just said I was mad. They said people won't work like that. You've got to treat them mean. You give them an inch, they take a mile, and it's just like, and this is like a mantra from all of these people, and they really believe that, still now. I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, I dreamt of finding a different way. In 2016, I had to find a different way because our margins were just being caned. We went from, when I started out, payroll was running at about 25% of our turnover, and it went up in 2016 past 40%. And that was pretty much our whole margin. Not just that, but the raw materials coming from Italy, because we buy a lot of Italian goods, food and wine. The prices of that had gone up, and there's a lot of competition coming into the market, and we couldn't put our prices up anymore. And so I had to find a different way. At about that time, Professor Cal Newport recommended me to read two books. One was Team of Teams, and the other one was this fantastic book, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. Now, the interesting thing about Team of Teams, to start off with, was that's where we were in the very beginning. You see, he took the military from there to there. We actually went from there to there. And it was very exciting to read that and say, there is a way that actually you can deconstruct that. So that kind of gave me the idea. But we would definitely look much more like that. Yeah, and that was when all the excitement happened. We were the first restaurant in the world that I could find that had gluten-free pasta options. We were doing that 25 years ago, 23 years ago. We had a vegan menu, all this stuff that people are talking about now. We did it years before then. And we were innovating. We had the whole team doing that right in the early days. But we kind of got stuck. And this is out of the Scrum book, is the implementation on how to implement Scrum. And so I read the book and I thought, God, this is incredible. And I just started a new marketing team, and it was about just under a year old, and they were really bright and read a lot and wanted to try new things. So I said, hey, should we try this? And they thought it was a great idea. And within 6 weeks, they tripled their velocity, and with quality, they were literally, each one of them was doing the work of 3, and they were much happier. So in my naivety, I said, okay, let's try this on the kitchen and front of house team. This is great. But I came across that big structure again, and I just hit against it. And there was so much resistance, they didn't want to give up the power, right? And yeah, you know, I know I saw earlier on quite a few hands go up and say, I'm going to start my own company. You're in such a great position starting, you know, with this. But if you have a company that's well established and mature in their management and you try to implement this, be prepared that you're going to come up with an enormous amount of resistance. And, you know, and depending on where you do it from, try and go as high up as you can, because you'll have the most impact.
Can you tell us what exactly in terms of resistance? You are the boss, you own the restaurant, so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I tell you what when I was thinking about this solidified structure, one of the things that really got me was the fact that even though it was my business, there's only 32 employees, I'm there almost every day. If we're not away on holiday, which we don't go away that much, but I'm there every day, and still I don't know what's going on half the time in the old structure, because there's no cross collaboration between the teams. You try, but there's this kind of, it becomes like a mafia, you know. The teams, they do things in a certain way, this is the way we do it, and then you get all this ridiculous blackmail because you get one guy who can do one job, and it's like, I don't like this, I take off my apron and I'm going. And even though I could maybe cook for him, then suddenly your whole strategic plan for the next 3 months is gone, so you're like, hey, hold on. So there's a lot of this going on, as far as, but what I found is when you give people power in the old structure, they never want to give it up. Very few people. And I had a couple of team members who had babies, and then they came back afterwards and said, hey, I don't want any more responsibility. I'm really happy to offload it. But the ones who weren't in that position, they didn't. Once you gave it to them, they didn't want to give it up. So does that answer the question?
Sure, yeah, keep going.
So.
The chef left, didn't he?
Say?
The chef left, he couldn't bear it.
Well, that's it. So I realized I was, this is my wife Petronella, she's really, really good. It's a bit like, you know when you're an actor and you forget your lines? Somebody reads it to you. So I realized I was out of my depth with this and I didn't know what to do. So I felt I needed to go get some training, and I went to get some training with Dr. Sutherland's company, and first with a chap called Joe Justice, who built motor cars, who was brilliant, and then he recommended I actually go and train with Jeff. And when I told funny enough, my chef and manager, the two people who reported directly to me, both of them I gave the book to, they were the only two that didn't even read a page. It was really interesting. When they found out that I was going to train with Jeff, they both handed in their notice and they left. And literally they were gone by the time I got back. And so I said to the team, look, we're in this situation. I would like to go there. This is where we are now. We've got a choice. Do we take on the managers, or do you want to have a go at running this yourselves? And if we do it, we're just going to be a flat organization, me included. We're just team members, all coming together to work with the one role, job of getting customers, happy customers, into our restaurant and making sure they leave happy. And every single one said they wanted to give it a go. So, what's the first challenge do you think we had? Any idea what a manager spends the biggest chunk of his time on?
Invoices and receiving shipments and things.
They spend a bit of time on that, but not as much as you'd like.
Controlling the work that the people below them do, checking the work of the people.
Yeah, it's related to that, but actually scheduling. It's scheduling when people come in for work. In England, they call it a rota. You know, it's like when people come in, 8 to 10 hours a week. A manager would do it, and none of the team were ever happy with it. You know, they say, oh, and the conversation would go like, okay, look, I've just spent 8 hours doing this, and now I've got 4 people who want to change. No, we're not going to change anything. It's got to stay like this. And even team members saying, can we change with each other? No, it has to come through me. So it's this one person controlling everything. And then the conversation goes, well, if you don't like it, go find another job. Nice, thing. Anyway, the team decided they were going to try it. I remember Dr. Sutherland saying to me when I was doing my training, every great team I've ever seen had the habit of swarming. What is swarming? Swarming is taking the highest priority item and taking as many of us as necessary to get that done as fast as possible. You don't always need everyone, but who have on our team? What's the quickest way for us to get that? Because it's only one highest priority. And I know you had some Scrum training recently, but the thing about what I love about Scrum, we're only going for one thing. And then when we've done that, we go for the next thing. But there's only one priority. So we're trying to get as many people around that. We got virtually the whole team in together. We created a little matrix on the left-hand side here, the job functions. On the top there, you've got the days of the week. And we just put a tick in each box and said, that's where we need people to cover. And the whole team got round, and each one, in a very fair system, each one put their initials on a little post-it, and they went round, and they populated the board. And they managed 4 weeks worth of rotors in 1 hour as a team. Okay, there were more people, there was more human beings doing the job, but they got 4 weeks, which would have taken a manager 30 to 40 hours. Not just that, but they were happy with it. They were happy with the result. They've been doing this for the last 3 years, every week, and I've never heard any problems. I had one Saturday out of 3 years when I had to intervene and say, hold on, I don't think we've got enough experienced people in this particular shift because we've got some big parties coming in. And then they just reorganized themselves and they figured it out. This is what came out though. Out of that exercise, we found 15% of shifts. And how did we find that? Because people were used to doing a certain amount of shifts every week, and suddenly when we populated all the ticks, they still had post-its in their hands. So I said, oh, hold on. So now we realize that the managers have been scheduling shifts because they were worried that if people got sick, went on hot vacation, that they would have to cover them themselves. They don't like to come out of that back office. They want to stay in that office and not come out. So they had extra people, and I didn't know about it. That's the thing. So we did an audit for the whole year, and we found some months were as much as 30%, based on the matrix that we created as a team. And actually, that hasn't changed much, that original matrix of what was really needed. But before it was hidden, now it was visible. And you're going to hear that theme coming through again and again and again about lots and lots of different things. Forgive me, I'm going to try and, I do, please interrupt me, because I don't want to, this is for you, not for me. But I can zip through a few more ideas. Yeah?
Quick question, when people realize that they weren't as needed, like I assume that has an impact on their salary, so like how did they feel about being scheduled less?
Well, that's a great point, but what happens is, again, coming back to this reallocation of resources situation, because we had certain projects that we were wanting to work on and we didn't have enough manpower for them. And so it was like, oh God, do we recruit somebody just for that? And then we were able to just reallocate, and there were a whole bunch. It's really incredible when you get somebody who comes to you. I'm sure you know this, but you get somebody on a team, and you actually go and talk to the individual people and find out what they like doing. They've all got these incredible skills, these hobbies that you can always apply to whatever you're doing that is outside of the mandate of what they're doing on their day-to-day work. So we have one lady who, Diane, who used to organize parties, big parties. So she became our party planner, and then she taught all the other team members how to do that. So lots of things we wanted to do, wanted to go to weddings and so on. So when they had downtime, it's never been a case ever of, oh, we need less people, so we're going to get rid of someone. But in my industry, people do leave for a number of reasons, and sometimes it's a matter of, do we really need to replace them? And they go, no. So I like this quote from Taichi Ono about the production Toyota production system. All we're doing is looking at the timeline, he said, from the moment a customer gives us an order to the point where we collect the cash, and we are reducing that timeline by removing non-value-added waste. And everywhere I look, I'm finding waste. It's incredible. The lesson here is to continually look for it. You know, if you go, and I know Dr. Sutherland has an amazing story about a company that was a software company, and they were spending 300 people, was it, that were supporting Windows 2007 or something? And they realized that actually none of their customers were needing that support, and so.
This is a generic problem every time we prioritize in any institution, maybe G, 3M, Toyota, 15 to 30% of the projects, as soon as we get them ordered, people will look at it and say, we shouldn't be doing that. And we free up hundreds of people in one morning's work. So all of you are going to be leaders. That's the first thing you want to eliminate. All that stuff that doesn't need to be done. The only way to do that is to get everything clearly prioritized.
Yeah. So the evolution of the board went from a paper board to a magnetic board. You know, people don't have to rewrite their names every time. And we're using a lot of these. So we'll use these type of magnets. If there's an extra person, we'll put that on top of their name. So we know that just by looking at it. So we don't need so many reports anymore. We're trying to make everything visual, so anybody walking into the organization. So once I give you a quick background of what it is, you could come in and I'll invite you, any of you, come to the restaurant whenever you like, come and have a look around. You'll be able to understand what's happening, what we're working on, without talking to anyone. So that's our goal, and we're getting pretty far on that one. And this one, for example, this one where we didn't need person on that particular shift, so we just pop it on there. So when we know that somebody's actually thought that we don't need it. And then, so this is, we again use the same board to try to get a stable team through the front of house and the kitchen. We struggle with too many special. Yeah.
Just on the point, I just wanted to, 10 seconds in. It's interesting, the system that Riccardo has come up with, and certainly we have teams that have implemented Scrum across Europe, European Reconstruction and Development Bank, other leadership teams from organizations actually come to Riccardo's restaurant to see how this is done. So his invite to you to stop by in London, I'm hoping is not an idle one, and that if you do get a chance to go in and see that, because leaders do go in.
We've had Bosch, BP, 3M, they come by and they say, hey, because we know if you can do it in a restaurant, you can do it anywhere. You know, so and these are normally quite high up. They're not at the highest level, but they're pretty high up, and they really want to go agile, and they're getting a lot of resistance. So they need case studies. They need to say, if we can do it there, how does it work? What's it going to look like? What's it going to look like? Because everybody says we're just full of business as usual. You know, we're already up to here. We can't innovate. You know, those type of things. So we have a solution for that, which we can go through. Yeah.
How do you think about adjusting your needs? So if you realize that Sundays have suddenly become busier than they were previously, adjusting the resources you need there and just making sure that you're continuously keeping up with what the customers are actually want out of the restaurant.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And something I forgot to tell you is when they did the rota and they found out when they have extra people, at that point we made everybody's salaries public. And so, and we taught them how to calculate the full gross figure for each team member. So when they add extra shifts, they report that to us. So we know, oh, we're spending £500 more this week than we need to spend. And then we have a discussion about it. And so to answer your question, the team know look, we're really busy at the moment, and actually it's a quiet night. We need people to rest, right? So that might be one scenario. So they'll send people home. They do it themselves. You know, there's always, they talk to each other now, which they never did before. You know, they really, really talk to each other. The other thing, yeah.
Sorry, please finish.
The other thing is they they have like a time book, and they just say, hey, look, it's not busy tonight. You don't need me. Call me. Gone. or if they've got a few days, they might put 1 or 2 people on call. You just say, okay, if we call you in on that night, we'll pay you 1.5 times your normal rate, but we've got you on call until an hour before the service, or whatever it might be. So I think that they're able to do that. They don't want to hang around and do nothing. Yeah.
When you say they, I mean, is there some de facto leader who's kind of become the manager? Because
We had a real
somebody
problem.
has to-
We had a real problem with leadership. Every time I made somebody a scrum master or a product owner or whatever, you know, I don't like to use those terms so much because we have people from all over the world, and it gets really confusing. So I have to really keep it simple. But you know, like the guy who has the dream and the guy who eliminates the problems, you know, so this, that, and the other. Every time we put somebody in that role, they became a sort of de facto manager for at least the first 18 months, almost 2 years. It was just so ingrained in the DNA of being used to following orders that they defaulted back to that behavior. And so we just said for the first 2 years we had no roles at all. And it was just figure it out. And they figured it out. I found that when the teams actually talked to each other, they found a much better solution than I could if I went in there and I thought that I was, you know, going to solve it. As far as leadership on a day-by-day, yeah, sorry.
So there's this cross-training as well. You don't just get a barman who's only a barman. You can also be a waiter.
Absolutely.
Running, you know, everybody does everybody else's job. They're not kind of specialists.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll cover that in 1 second. And they let me just go through this very quickly and I'll come back to that. What we were struggling with, too many specialists, cross-functional teams, what's what we wanted? Self-organizing, self-managing, collaborative, self-improving. Solution to the problem was give teams 25% of the profits so that they could understand the whole business. I originally thought that the profit share would be motivational. Zero motivation. I can't tell you, it was amazing. But what I found really motivated them was the idea, and this is our new goal, is to take the profit share and create a pension fund for them so that they can have a few pounds at some point at a later stage. All of them said, we've got problems, we spend all our money. All that's going to happen when you give us more money is we're going to spend it. Yeah, and we've got a few team members who are in their sort of 30s and 40s, and when we mentioned, we started brainstorming some ideas, because at one point we gave them almost a whole year's worth of profit share was still in cash. So they got 50% of it in cash, so it said you can distribute it any way you want, and then just tell us how you distributed it, and we'll pay the tax on it, right? And if there's anything left over, you get the rest. And 5 months later, they still hadn't distributed it. And they came up with 5 or 6 different schemes on how to do that, but there was I was totally surprised. I thought that would be the most motivating thing. But what it did, because our accountants were preparing our management accounts 2 weeks at the end of every month, there was such a lag that we could never remember what happened 6 weeks ago, or you know, we didn't know how the month related to the week. So I said to the team, okay, I'm going to cut you a blank check every week. You figure out the income statement, the profit and loss. If you've made a profit, you can write out 50% of that to cash and actually go and cash it at the bank and distribute it. And so now they figure out the weeklies, which they then check against our bookkeepers' numbers at the end of 6 weeks in. So it's two weeks after the end of the month. And I think the education of that kind of goes back to this thing about when they go home early, they know when we're losing money. And we do tend to lose money in the January and February. Then we make it up. But then they know, oh God, if we lose money, then we have to, that money's a loss in the company, and we don't get profit until we don't get our profit share. So even though they're not motivated, they're still seeing it. And I think just the education was really valuable. this is the point my wife was making, give everyone unlimited vacation and days off on the condition that somebody who has the right skill level for that job can cover their job. And what happened at that point was the barman started training the waiter started training the barman, and they realized that they have freedom. They could run this on their own. So that was a really good, the end result was 10% pay rise to all the team members, and we cut payroll down to 31%. So now we were back in profit. Not as much as before, but we're making up in other ways. Another way you can eliminate the specialist problem is just paying more for additional jobs. When we have new team members in, because they're, that's a slightly different situation now. You've got a new team member comes in, you say, okay, for each job you can do, you earn an extra £1 per hour, and that equates to £2,000 a year. So then it's like, oh, how do I learn to do the bar? Oh, how do I learn to do this? How do I learn to do that? So they're then asking to, permission to learn more jobs, yeah.
So sounds like you're not fully in the Scrum or whatever you want to call it. Sounds like you kind of let them do it separately. So it's more of a managed team of your staff, but you're involved. Like, where do you show up?
I don't know yet. I mean, I took on a role as sort of chief product owner, but really I'm just coaching them every day. I'm trying to coach them. I don't make decisions for them. I actually don't. I'm not really chief product owner because I should be creating backlog items for them, but I'm not. I'm actually just coaching them on how to do it. Yeah.
Speaking of motivation, what does career progression looks like at your restaurant? So
Yeah, great
do your
question.
employees ever get promoted, and if not,
Great.
how do they stay motivated?
Really good question. So,
Can you repeat the question?
sorry. So the question was career progression. How do people? So we have two roles. We have team member and business owner, and I want, because a lot of my team members actually one day, we talk to them all, one day they want to have their own business. And so I said, okay, I'm an owner. You're not going to take my job, so I'd have no vested interest in keeping you down. If you're really good and really ambitious, when you want to start your own business, why don't we do business together? So I want all my team members who want to, because some don't want to, some just want to come there, take the, a couple of people I know that just want to take their salary and go home, and they're fantastic. But the ones who want to grow, we let them grow as much as they can. And I say, look, if you want to go on to here to another job, then with my blessing, we're going to build you up as big as you can. But the only proviso is you've got to help us find your replacement before you leave. And then, so we'll help you as much as possible. So far, it hasn't been a problem. But I think that the way forward is to grow the business. Everybody wants to be in a company that's growing. They're growing in a healthy way. There are some that are just so out of control that they can't. Yeah.
And then segue, follow up on that. What if you like to expand the restaurant or open new restaurants under this and may become a chain? Who makes that decision?
Any one of us. We are actually opening another restaurant now. We've got builders in right at this moment, so we should be opening very soon.
And it works still like, now you have silos per restaurant?
But I give you another example. We had a local hairdressers down the road from us, and they said, could we do the catering? So I called the team in, I said, do you want to do it? I'm not going to do it unless you guys want to do it. And they're like, yeah, thanks. We booted up a scrum team in, they gave us 2 weeks, and they came in and said, the chef we've got now is left, can you start today? And that was at 9 o'clock in the morning. By 11 o'clock in the morning, we gave them the first iteration of a menu, and we were able to serve them for lunch that day, just using Scrum. Okay, what's the backlog? Bang, we all sat down. We made sure we had no outside dependencies, so we got 2 people from the hairdressing salon. We got them sitting with us, co-located. We just went through the whole thing, and we figured out the first iteration. We got them a menu. We started serving. So we were able to grow that. That then becomes automated. It's not a siloed part, it's just another part of an organization, We still meet, we still coordinate and cooperate with each other.
If you make a big investment, you need like money from somewhere, and also you'll probably tap into the profits, which will decrease. Still, you have that decentralized, or who asks for a loan, for example?
In what way?
Like if you need, I don't know, $1 million to open a new restaurant,
Yeah.
who makes that call?
I mean, that's not the way the way I've seen, for me, it was I have people coming in and saying, I bought a building and I'd really like you to come and partner up with us. We'll put the money in. We like what you're doing. We like the way your teams operate. We like the atmosphere. Will you come in and work? That's how the last deal that we've done worked. As far as borrowing money, I mean, anyway, if any of my team members wanted to go out and borrow money, it would be great. But I think it would probably come down to me. I would get it. This is something that my friend over here really wanted me to.
No, I just wanted you to add, to maybe elaborate on the plan. You said when the hairdresser came in and said, we have, can you help us today? Under the old system, what would have happened? I mean, the new
We
one,
couldn't have done it.
You had the muscle memory to respond, but
Under the old system, we would have just said, I'm so sorry, we need more time. We're already we had no way of, we didn't even have the language to be able to say we got to prioritize our work. Is this important? If this is a new priority, what could we drop out? We just didn't know, how to think in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm not an expert in the restaurant business, but I believe from the traditional organizational point of view, there is a chef on the kitchen and a maitre d'.
Yeah.
In the dining area.
Yeah.
In your restaurant, how is it organized? Is it like a cross-functional team, or two separate types of teams, one in the kitchen and another one in the dining area?
That's a great question. We have we don't have many rules. We try to keep that sort of minimum viable rules. And one of them is if you're the only person who can do something, you have to pair up with somebody else when you do it. Yeah? And so now everybody can do everybody else's job. We do have a person who acts like a head chef because he takes more responsibility than the others. And actually he's got a real depth of knowledge. And so he earns more money. And the others know that. But they know they have like a career progression to say, well, if you get to that point, you're going to be so good that we're going to have another restaurant. So we have to grow.
So there is no boundary between kitchen and serving clients? Between cooking food and serving the food?
We have people who work in the kitchen. There's a kitchen team. We have the front of house team who do the front of house. We have the marketing team and the admin team. We merge them to make it more efficient. And so now we have 3 teams at the restaurant. I know that I'm running out of time, and I know that Yuvin wanted me to cover this about Lucy. So when the managers leave, the deep issues arrive, and that arise. They're always there. And Lucy, 17-year-old singing student, really, really bright. She's actually the only person on my team who she read the Scrum book within the first week. She asked if I could tell her where I bought one of these boards, and I bought her one, and she put it up in her room, and she started managing all her studies using Scrum. She paid her life savings to go and train with Dr. Sutherland, off her own back, never asked me to put her through the training. Did that. Anyway, one day she turns around, she puts her hand up and says, Riccardo, you keep saying it's got to be a fair system for everyone, but it's not a fair system. And I said, how so? And she goes, well, look, these 2 ladies over here, they both got kids. They come in late and they leave early. All of us, we live further away than them, but they we have to come in early and leave late. And nobody feels comfortable confronting them because they have kids. And I don't think it's a fair system. And she said, and everybody went really weird after she said this. She said, we didn't ask them to have kids. And you know, the team got together, 3 or 4 of them, especially the 2 ladies who had the children, and they did everything they could to try and get rid of it. And you know, it was 2 weeks of hell. And I just said, look, you know, I'm not going to intervene. I try not to. I train as a mediator, so I like, okay, I'm not going to come in and force it, but she has protection here. You cannot get rid of her without coming through me. And so you're going to have to live with her. I suggest you sort this out. So we created a little environment for them. They went in. There was a lot of tears and screaming and this, that, and the other. And 2 to 3 weeks later, they came out of that. I promise you, 2 years later, she's 19 now. She's the most valued member of the team. They love each other, they hug each other, they go out on picnics together, and they're having a whale of a time. And they sorted that out on their own. And I find if you just create the environment for people, you'd be amazed at what they can do. We are told, you know, we are the brightest people in the world, and we have to be the supreme architect, and we have to make all the decisions and so on. But actually, all the decisions I make are not as good as the decisions that the team make when the team make them, when they've got all the information. And that's another thing, is that we give everyone every bit of information. I know that you're going to become a banker, and it's going to be difficult when you're working for a global bank to give information. But I remember McChrystal saying about this WikiLeaks thing. He said, look, yeah, all this information came out. He said, but it was still worth it. He said, but we could never have done what we did if everyone didn't have all the information. And so I think we really need to look at that. You know, that old structure of everybody hoarding information and hiding things from people, I think is really dangerous. I think I'm out of time. 5 minutes. Okay, cool. I try to zip through, but do interrupt me. Recruitment, they helped me recruit 4 people just by making pop. I saw this board from Henrik Nyberg. He used to be the chief trainer for Spotify and Lego. And I met him when I was doing some training, and I copied that board, created that board, showed the team what was happening, and they ended up recruiting 3 out of the 4 people that we were looking for, which was amazing. So, you know, twice the work in half the time. It actually worked. The team could see the bottlenecks, and they decided to help out. And their morale went up because they chose the people. And before that, I used to choose all the people and give them the team members. And because they had selected the people, they wanted them to succeed. There's all these kind of spin-offs that happen when you let go of this stuff, and you don't expect certain things to happen the way they do, but it's always an improvement, in my experience. I love this. Steve Jobs, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people, they can tell us what to do. And I remember hearing him being interviewed, and he said, we get the smartest people in the world come to work at Apple. He said, but I spend 50% of my day figuring out how to keep them here. And that was Steve Jobs. And it kind of gave me a big thing, you know, because I had that conversation, you know, how do we keep that person here? How do we keep them interested? They're so bright, how do we keep them on the team? Unless you're doing something really exciting, unless you're giving them autonomy, unless you're allowing them a way that they can grow within the organization, then you know that you will lose them, and that seems to be a big problem. Yes.
Isn't there like natural formation of hierarchy in the sense, for instance, this Lucy case? These 2 women might have, or if they hire someone because they're more senior and they've been there for longer and they're the ones who got you in, doesn't that mean that in a way they're like
well, I always say, look, people who have been here for a long time have a lot of experience. We tend to pay them more because they have a lot of experience. One lady has been with us for 24 years. So So, she knows every customer, they kiss her on the cheek, blah, blah. She earns 10% more than everybody else. But they know that, and they know that she knows everyone by name and so on. So when you get there, you can do that. That's number one. But number two, I don't believe in this that you have any more right to a voice or an opinion if you've been there for a year, 5 years, 50 years, or if it's your first day. If we've taken you onto the team, then you're a team member, and you have as much right as anybody else to be on that team. We don't owe you because you gave us loyalty over the years. We pay you for that, and that's what we expect. It's like, I think it's there's this kind of feeling of entitlement from a lot of people. Oh, well, I've been here, this company will be nothing without me. Well, okay, you got a chance to grow when you were with the company, number one. Number two, you got paid for it. And I think we've got to get out of that and be creating new things. I don't like those type of conversations, but they do happen. Yeah, I employed you and now you're stabbing me in the back. But it's not really, because if I'm encouraging people to have it, and I say, I do put a mandate, I want a fair system. It's got to be a fair system that everybody agrees to. Then, yeah.
You mentioned compensation.
Yeah.
Who makes that decision? Is that you or is that the team?
Well, we've started a new way of doing that now. We look at what's happening in the marketplace, and we have a conversation about it. And I get everybody has a chance to talk about their salary and why they think they should earn more or less or whatever it might be. Well, actually, nobody's ever come in and said they should earn less. They might say somebody else should earn less. If my goal would be that everybody on the team pretty much earned the same money. That would be the ideal, because everybody had the same skill set, everybody's trained to the same level, and then you'd have like, okay, well, we're just on a profit share, have 50% of the profits, not 25, and that's how we make up our money, because then they've really got skin in the game. And if there's a team member that says, well, that person shouldn't, they shouldn't earn that much money, then my question should be, why are they on the team? But it becomes a team decision, and that's what we're finding now. The team are actually starting to take responsibility for other team members. And they'll come together almost as a committee and they'll call that person in and say, we don't feel that you're performing very well. And it's not fair on us. We're all suffering. We feel we're doing the work for you. And they'll give them a little program. And we don't like to, I remember Jack Welch saying, if you have to let somebody go and they're even remotely surprised, then shame on you. And that's what I keep telling that to my team. If we got to let them go, it must not be a surprise. They must come in that day and go, yeah, I need to go, don't I? And that's the way it is. Yeah.
Does this create factions within? I mean, there's a political element. Like I have 3 friends, and I'm going to get together and.
I haven't seen it so far. I haven't seen it so far. Yeah.
Do you think to make the system work, now you need a higher level of talents in your team? Because you mentioned earlier that with the system before, people were just following orders. Now they're taking more accountability and more of the creative tasks sometimes.
Yeah.
You say that on average you need.
They're so much better than they even thought they were. When you really let them go, and you just say, go on. Go and do it, fly, and they fly. It's incredible that they, especially when they're not scared of making mistakes, because the culture in most businesses, they're so scared. I said a new team member comes in today, and I say, to make a customer happy, you can comp a meal, comp their meal, comp the whole table. If it's more than 2 people, come and talk to somebody else. But what we're trying to do is one of the biggest problems in business that I see right now, and I should have said it at the beginning, customers have a mobile phone in their pocket. And they can trash your reputation in 30 seconds. And that's there for forever. They put on TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor do not take stuff, even if it's lies, barefaced lies, they don't take that stuff down. If somebody puts on Twitter, I found out the other day, I think it's right, in Wikipedia, you can use Twitter as a citable source. So, and, yeah, somebody was doing a Wikipedia thing, and they said you could use it. So Twitter is, you know, it's there forever, and anybody can see it. And so we're trying I learned from Dr. Sutherland's thing about decision latency, the time from when a decision needs to be made to when it is made. And we're just trying to collapse that down to almost zero. So any decision is better than no decision if it's made in the moment. And so far, in 2.5 years since we've really implemented that rigorously, nobody's made a big mistake. I mean, maybe a couple of £100 here or there, but it's like in the overall concept. Customer satisfaction has gone up so high. It was like in the 70s and 80s, when we were really good and we had the A-team on. Yeah, it was in the 90s, but consistently it would drop back down to the 70s where we had. Now we're in mid to high 90s all the time. And every customer's being surveyed. We put surveys on the tables. We phone people up from the bookings book the next day, just randomly. We're really keeping tabs on that, and things are much better. What do you? I mean, I'm kind of.
How much?
Are you sure? Swarming. Okay. On daily meetings, I mean, you know, I purposely stripped out all the Scrum jargon out of this because I didn't know where you'd be, and how. But you know, it's a daily Scrum meeting, daily stand-up, whatever you might call it. We're meeting and we're showing a video like this to the teams. So we'll show them something like that. But what do you get from that video? Any, yeah.
We're very efficient as a team, and we're all very happy at the end, and they congratulate one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll ask questions like, how do we become more like that, right? You know, that's, where's the manager telling these guys what to do? And, you know, do you think that they just figured that out this morning? You know, so these are the kind of conversations that we're having. So, and yeah, that's the world record. It's 1.91 seconds. You know, 4 wheel change and a full refuel. You know, but you know how there's some magic happens in the restaurant when the admin team see on the CCTV, oh, they're really busy and it's lunchtime. We better go out and help them. And there's a party comes, and let's say we're all having lunch in the restaurant as a group like this, and all the food arrives, and suddenly it all gets served. And it's not like you get yours, and then you get yours, and then you get it all that boom. And then when we finished our meal, it all gets cleared, boom. And all these people come from nowhere and do that in the restaurant. When they get it right, it's incredible. But they don't need to be standing around all day long waiting to do that. They just see the information goes out in the organization. Hey, we have a big party coming in at this time. Everybody's there. So we know that we only. I studied the theory of constraints by Eddie Goldratt, and one of the big insights I had from them is, of course, we only make money when customers are in the restaurant. So everything has to be subordinated to customer service. Everything. When the customer's there, don't do anything if a customer has to wait. And last time I was in Boston, and we were going for lunch. I think Steve was there as well. We were going for lunch, and there were all those guys standing around in a restaurant with clipboards. I promise you, they had clipboards in their hand, and I just told some people this story. And they look quite smart, there's things, and we're standing waiting. We have half an hour for lunch. We've got to be back in a meeting. And they're over there in the corner. I said, guys, can we sit down? Oh no, you're going to have to wait for the hostess. She's just seating someone now. And we waited 5 minutes, and we just left.
There's nothing like going to a restaurant with a restaurateur. because it wasn't like, oh, I wonder where they went. They know why we left.
So, okay, how do we become more like this? We try to get one small improvement every shift. At the end of the shift, we have a retrospective to see if did it work or not. If it did, we carry on. If it didn't, we try something else. And then we have like this coaching team. We're trying to make everything, as I said, transparent. So every team member name and all the different things they need to learn. At the beginning of the year, we turn that all to red. We want everyone to green. And that means they've learned all the bits and pieces, and we've covered it again, the new way of doing it. And if anybody sees somebody who's not doing the job particularly well, they can turn them to yellow, which means they need retraining. And any team member can do that for any other team member. So if we're in the restaurant tonight and we see something happening, go, oh, that new person doesn't really know that. Oh, they're green. Oh, they shouldn't be. They need to be retrained. And if you're really bad, turn them back to red. It's fine. But nobody abuses it. They all want everyone to be green. We have to coach every day, especially with a vision. I hear these things that OKR this morning and all that stuff. I can't tell you when you've got an established, you've worked for established businesses. I heard this morning, but if you want to change something, you have to reiterate it every single time you meet the team. You have to tell them what the vision is, and you have to ask them, because very often they'll hear it, but they don't even remember it. So you have to ask them to tell you what it is. Tell me what's the vision. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going this week? Where are we going? What's our ultimate vision? And you know, and a lot of coaching. I had a situation recently, and there's something I tell you, if you ever want to go into Agile, learn it for yourself. Don't rely on a trainer sending one or two of your team out to go and get a little bit of training and come back and you think they're going to be okay. You've got to know what they're doing. And you really get involved in overseeing that, because it's, especially if it's an established company. If it's an established company, you're trying to change something, you've really got to know what you're doing. So that would be my, it's not that difficult. It goes back to that sort of implementation checklist. I think most of the training that I did that really got from the training was the certainty that this stuff works. And so when you go back in and you have somebody who's a naysayer or somebody who's negative, you feel that much, no, hold on a minute, I've been in Tesla, I spent a week at Tesla, I've been in Bosch in their motor racing division. These guys, you know, I talked to Amazon guys, these guys are running big companies, thousands of teams and doing it really well. And then you have the confidence and to actually turn around and say, no, I know this works, and that's the way I want to run my department or my division or my company, whatever it is. This checklist replaced our manager. One checklist. Because that's all they were doing, apart from the scheduling. The guys do their own scheduling. And we just try to get impediments as early as possible so that we can figure them out before the service starts. Team training, it's really, really simple. We're training people as business owners, as we talked about before. We show them everything, and we delegate to the point of extreme discomfort. That's when you know you're doing it enough. We want everybody to be leaders. We train them to be leaders, not followers. Fluid roles, this was a simple framework that we use. It's a 5-minute training to get them started, but they get that training every day until they get really booted up properly. Every day, until they can tell us what that diagram means. We then take people on mini little projects outside of their normal teams. Again, we get them swarming, we get them trying all the different roles. So we have fluid roles, so everybody gets to try out all the different roles so they understand what they are. We now actually put Scrum Masters, product owners, and they're getting formally trained. Every single team member will be certified in Scrum. And they want to be as well. I think it's something exciting. Oh yeah, I just say a lot of the Kaizen stuff, it's actually got nothing to do with the work. The things that they want are a gym or a picnic. And it's something that can help the teams get happier, get more motivated, get that cohesive feeling of togetherness, and then they feel they have a sense of purpose and they can move. I'll just quickly show you these. This was my first backlog item I ever wrote. As a business owner, I want to know each shift or each day if we're making a profit or a loss so we can adapt. That was the first thing. We now do that every week, but we're doing daily stats. This is how we train new team members. And so if you come to me and you've worked in a restaurant before, I say, what do you know? Okay, bang, I do quick tests. So we move everything out. We build you a quick board. and then we put the board up, and then any other team member can train you. So if you've got nothing to do for 5 minutes and there's somebody there, what are you working on next? Oh, they've already prioritized that. This is the next thing. Now we know what it is. Bang, any team member can do that. Again, the whole thing being visible, being allowing team members to see what's going on. This is a kitchen backlog. We're working on vegan stuff, like veganery, they call it in England. It's like January vegans, you know, things. So we're mocktails, because everyone's going dry for January, and vegan food. It's a big thing. So it's like one dish every day, and then we've got the definition of done for that work, which is they've got to have a recipe, a photograph, all the kitchen team members trained, they have a video, which is good for Instagram, but also for the training. It has to be approved by the product owner. The marketing team needs to be informed, and they need to have done a costing. So they're not allowed to say that thing is done until all of those things have been accomplished. So we create the definition of done for every single thing they do. And we try to pick one thing at a time. We give them a work in progress limit of 1, because they're already full with their business as usual. So it's not like a team that do nothing else. They're already serving customers. You know, we have 50 items on our menu with desserts and all the different things, so they're preparing those every day. But they have to be producing something every week which they can demonstrate to the team and to the stakeholders, and gets then either released to the customers. And very often we're doing 1 a day, but we're committing to 1 a week. Similar thing for the front of house team. They're doing the mocktails, so they do the same thing, try to keep 1 or 2. They've got 2 things, I don't know why that's crossed over. That's our impediments list, so we prioritize our top impediments of what they are. Every team member, we're trying to write them in a way that any team member can understand it. This is what our marketing and admin team, because they have a lot of repetitive work. That's their definition of done. Again, we quite like relevant team members notified and trained. So, you know, when you do a marketing, how many times you've been in a restaurant and you've got a little voucher and the server doesn't know anything about it. So, you know, everybody needs to be trained as part of that. Business as usual stuff, what we're doing to make it visible is every week they rewrite the post-its, and they've just got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they tick them off as they go. So, and because a lot of these you'll have like an infinity sign on them, so the infinity sign means that when that's done, that has to go back to the start again. That's in perpetual motion. But then we can walk in, like as a team, we could all go in now, we could go into the restaurant, we could see where they were on their work, each person. Conclusion. Customer satisfaction is good, team happiness is much better than we had with managers. Old team members are, this was really cool. We got a whole load of team members who are coming back to London now, and they want to come and work for us. They've stayed in touch with social media and stuff with other team members. They realize that it's a really good place to work, and we don't need to really go out to recruit anymore if we get a position vacant. Morale is high, wages and salary costs are stable, margins are improving, investors funding a new restaurant. We've got the next one opening in spring, and she'll be 100% Scrum from inception, so in theory it should be much easier. To sum up, having happy teams is what makes all the good things happen. What I learned from implementing Scrum in the last 3 years is that my #1 job is to create the environment where people can do, has anybody seen Dan Pink's motivation video? I highly recommend it. He says the big key motivators, and he did a TED talk, it's really good. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Those 3, and that's what we're trying to get. As well as a sense of belonging, being part of the team they can be proud of. And please do photograph that slide, and I mean it, you have an open invitation, come down anytime you like. We would love to treat you to a meal. You come as our guest, thanks to your connection to Professors Yuvan and Suraj, and thank you so much.
Riccardo Riccardo and his lovely wife, they're going to join us for dinner, so there'll be more time for a conversation. We will see you at 5 if you want to start making your way, catch up on calls. We'll see you this evening. We got Dr. Sutherland. But another big thank you to Riccardo and his family. He flew all the way over from the UK, British Airways flight, of course, Riccardo. But please take advantage of the time with him this evening. And of course, we have Dr. Sutherland come armed with great questions, and I hope you get a chance to also interact with him. So see you soon, and we'll kick off from about 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Right, see you at dinner.
It's like around 5 to 5.
Basically, I think
I'm gonna go to the
Exactly. The only thing is this is fake, it's right.
Like they tell you like how Scrum is done, and they don't want to get this well, but you can't do it like to the T and everything. So I really like how you talk about how it's tailored and how there's no Scrum. I felt confident.
My guys are kind of foodies too, so I was like, oh, maybe this is so, yeah. My first 2 years, yeah. I grew much. I got stuck with it. What kind of restaurant? Okay.
Come to Riccardo's restaurant.
You're still on.
It's delicious.
Training was
It's interesting that
Transparent. You got to be transparent. The group has to force itself.
I worked before at GSD for and did some other Yeah, do you happen to know Jim Patel? Yeah. Yeah. I would say he's I was at GSD. Well, I was working at an accelerator based at GSD.
Somebody's kids just get picked up by the nannies and they handle it.
Yeah, it's relatively new. It's been,
Is it Avi that's running it? No, because I just learned the pattern and now I'm. It's all about that.
Anyway, I don't know that we
He's on the board of the It's really scary.
No, I don't know.
I would take one thing.
Course?
You guys have focused one thing, put that in this one. That's because we so many, you, with your army business, so many shiny objects that are, oh, they go down, visions. There's no lack of vision.